Hello, welcome back to Retirement Clarity Radio. I am your host, Scott Newhouse. I'm a certified financial planner, an author, an all around good guy. I am so glad you and the dozens and dozens of other listeners of this podcast are with me today. I have a really exciting topic that I think we all at least should consider as we enter into retirement, which is, downsizing homes in retirement. Is that something that makes sense for myself, for my family? I really think it's something that you should at least consider. So that's why I want you to listen to this episode. Also, as you enter into retirement, there's a whole lot of things to consider, which is why I actually wrote a book called 65 Questions to Ask and Answer Before You Retire. You can get that for free at freeretirementbooks.com. So I basically go through 65 big important questions that you should ask and then some guidelines on how you can answer that specifically for you and your family. Again, the book's 65 Questions to Ask and Answer Before You Retire, and you can get it for free at freeretirementbooks.com. But let's get into today's episode, downsizing homes in retirement. This is a really big decision. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of emotional factors. There's also going to be some financial factors that can go into this. You can save on expenses. You could help your retirement income go further. But it may not be worth it for you, and that's fine. That's fine if it's not. But I've put together 5 different things that you should at least consider if you're going to think about downsizing homes in retirement. So let's get into number 1 right now. So the first one is you want to, if you're thinking about downsizing, switching homes in retirement, you need to think about choosing a home that's easy for you now. And I'm assuming retiring in sometime in your 60s. So choose a home that's easy for you now, but also in the future. So when you're looking at changing homes into your retirement, you need to be thinking, and you may not be thinking about things like disabilities or difficulty climbing stairs, or even keeping up with the larger home. But as you age, it really does become an issue. So you'd want to consider investing in some kind of single-story home, so you don't have to worry about maneuvering stairs, which, as you can imagine, is really difficult in your, maybe late 70s, 80s, and 90s. You also want to think about the number of rooms and the size that's feasible. Will you really have your family or your grandchildren spending the night often? You'll want to make sure that you have adequate room for you and your immediate family that's living there without making the home so large that it's hard to maintain or even keep clean as you age. Another thing to really consider is the accessibility of the home. Like I said, if it's a single story, slip and fall accidents are one of the most frequent reasons why older people call an ambulance. So having a single story, obviously that's going to eliminate the stairs, but slip and falls, so things like exiting the shower or getting up from the toilet, things like that. If you can purchase things that you can hold on to that can make it easier for you as you age to prevent those slip and fall accidents, that's going to be really important for you in your hopefully late 70s, 80s, and 90s, so that you don't have any of those kind of accidents, or at least you can limit the likelihood that you have those accidents. So that's point number 1. Choose a home that's good for you now, but also really think about what's your future self going to need, and how's that going to affect your lifestyle in the future. The second thing that I have to consider is you need to choose what to do with your extra stuff. Now, I think we're all guilty of this as Americans. We all have too much stuff. We are programmed somehow to keep items that we know, or I put in quotes, that we know, quote unquote, our kids will want, but surprise, surprise, when it comes time to give your kids some of the things that you've accumulated, a lot of kids these days actually don't have much interest in it at all. And that's not, a personal knock on you, but the younger generation may not have the tendency to keep as much stuff as maybe an older generation does. So rather than holding on to items that you think your kids will want, I'd encourage you to have this conversation with them now. Ask them, hey, do you want me to hold on to this? Will you want this in the future? And let them be honest. And if they don't want it, my question for you is, why hold on to it any longer? If you have stuff that you can't part with quite yet, and maybe that's something you're hoping your kids will change their mind on and they'll eventually keep it, or something else. You can consider temporary storage, but it really must be temporary. So things like a dining room set that your child wants when they move into their home, that's fine. Or maybe some items that you might sell at an antique shop, or you auction on eBay, something like that, that's okay too. But I really would encourage you not to use temporary storage as an excuse not to part with things that you'll never use. The storage business storage business does quite well because, again, as Americans, we just keep so much stuff, and people don't really see it as temporary storage units, they see it as permanent storage units. So I'd encourage you really not to go down that route. Have those tough conversations with your children right now, and really determine what they want, and then what you really want to hold on to, and what you can part with. So the items that you no longer want, I would encourage you to separate them into two categories. One category is donate, and then the other is a garage sale, if you want to do a garage sale. And if you don't, that's fine. Just throw it in the donate pile. But if you have items that are in great condition, you think you might make a few bucks on, you can go ahead, have that garage sale. Might be fun. Meet your neighbors, whatnot, and then you can take that money and you can spend it however you want. But if you don't want to be bothered with it, it is a lot of work, or if you're not sure it's worth anything, then you can just donate the items to a local shelter, resale shop that can help those in need. So really encourage you, that's my point number 2, really think through what do you want to do with that extra stuff that you have. The number 3 thing that I have in terms of downsizing homes in retirement is think about the intangibles of this move. So we've moved past the material things now, but what are the intangible things that you're going to leave behind if you switch homes, especially if you downsize? Family and friends, that's obviously going to be a big part of your decision. Are you going to be okay leaving them behind? Have you formed close relationships with your neighbors, churchgoers, synagogue members, whoever, of other groups that you've joined? Are you going to miss those people? If they're a big part of your life, I'd encourage you to think about how you're going to fill that void, especially now that you're in retirement and you're going to have more free time to potentially spend with those people that you really care about. It may not hit you right away, but eventually you'll miss those connections that they have, and you'll need to fill that void. Now, it could be new people, and that's fine, but you got to think about where are we going to fill that relationship and connection void. The other set of intangibles I'd want you to think about is things like your doctors, specialists, other professional relationships that you've formed over the years. Are you close with people in your community that you rely on for their services? So, and even things like the local cleaners that you really like, just those like neighborhood institutions that you really like. We all get into habits and form relationships with people like that. So just really think about those. So maybe you're going to downsize to somewhere in the same neighborhood. That's great, and you can probably keep all of these relationships. But if you're going to go somewhere else, I really just want you to think about what you might be losing there, and then how you can fill that void in the new city, the new state that you go to. My 4th point about downsizing homes in retirement is just be realistic about your home's value. Now, I know this is hard for a lot of people because we're emotionally attached to our homes, and that makes so much sense. We've had so many amazing, hopefully amazing memories there. But that might make you inflate its value. And now, especially as I record this in May of 2020, real estate prices are really incredible. So maybe you want to list your home a little bit higher than what it's going for around the market. But I really do want you to look at what's the market value in the homes that have sold in the area, especially for those last 6 months, and then what kind of extra features does your home have that might increase that value, or what kind of extra features do those other homes have that your home doesn't have and that might decrease your value. So I really want you to be realistic about your home's value and just do a tough, fair-minded analysis of recent comparables from the last 3 to 6 months with a really good real estate professional who can help you find a realistic value of your home, and not just a sentimental value that might increase it or inflate it in your own mind. And then the 5th thing I want you to think about is, understand the true cost of selling your home. Because once you have a good idea of the home's value and how much you can actually sell it for, then you actually need to figure out one more thing, which is what extra seller's cost are you going to incur that's going to affect the net proceeds that you get. So it might feel great to get 500,000 of proceeds from selling your home, for example, but don't forget to factor in the cost that's going to eat that up. On average, and this is from Zillow, sellers pay anywhere from 8 to 10% of the sales price in closing fees. So this includes the real estate agent's commission, title insurance, transfer properties, maybe prorated property tax, maybe some kind of HOA fees, maybe any attorney fees. There could be a lot depending on what you and your real estate professional have negotiated. But just remember that proceed doesn't necessarily equal what's going to land in your pocket once we get through with all those closing fees. Also, don't forget the cost of moving. If you're going to do something locally, maybe you can hire a set of professional movers for anywhere from $1,250 or $1,500. But if you're moving long distance, you might want to be prepared for up to $5,000, maybe even more than that. So most of the money that you get coming from selling your home, most of the money that you get from selling your home, you are going to keep it, but you are going to kind of be nickeled and dimed on the closing fees as well as moving fees. If you're going to sell your furniture, you got to think about how much is that going to generate. If you're going to buy new furniture, how much is that going to generate? So my main point here is just to remember that whatever your sale price is, the proceeds are, it's not going to equal what you're exactly going to have in your pocket. It's going to be a little bit less than that. So I want you to plan on that. So those are 5 really important things to think about if you're going to downsize homes in retirement. I'm going to re-emphasize point number 1, which is my most important point in this episode. Again, slip and fall accidents is one of the most frequent reasons why an ambulance is actually called. So I want you to, if you're going to switch homes in your 60s or your 70s, I really want you to think about, hey, is this home friendly for someone that's aging and may not have the physical strength and may be more prone to accidents? So really think about how you can make your home more accessible to someone that's aging and is not putting you at a risk of, slipping and falling, hurting yourself, and having to call that ambulance. So those are 5 things to think about if you're going to downsize your home in retirement. Again, if you want to get my free book on 65 questions to ask and answer before you retire, just go to freeretirementbooks.com. You're going to be able to download a free copy of that book, and that's going to help you have an overview of all the things that you need to be thinking about as you enter into this new stage of life. So that's all I've got for this episode. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a great week. Bye. Thanks again for listening. As a reminder, you should consult with a financial advisor familiar with the specific circumstances of your unique financial situation before making any financial decisions. Nothing in this podcast is a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mentions of rate of return are hypothetical in nature and not a guarantee of future returns. Scott Newhouse, CFP, is an investment advisor representative of Forthright Finances, a California and Nevada registered investment advisor.